Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to February chat. So the topic for today is really the one that everybody is interested is introducing the new ArcGIS Field Maps all in one app for field data collections. So many of you probably already use Collector for ArcGIS and other field apps, and you want to hear more. What is the ArcGIS Field Map? So we bring the person that's in charge in this from the product lead of the field apps, Jeff Shanner. Okay, so Jeff Shanner will really talk about this new app and also give all the demo and answer all the questions. Now, before we start there, let me just also introduce you that we have a new education chat new landing page. Okay, so this is the link. I'm gonna copy and paste into the chat, but basically this is built using ArcGIS Hub, so you can see all the previews and upcoming. So let me just share in here. So you can see first is the upcoming chat and the future chat and all the recording of the previous topics. So any of you want to listen to the recording again, you can always go here. Okay. So again, I'm gonna copy and then paste it to the chat. Without further ado, I'm gonna stop sharing here and I'm gonna let Jeff start and introduce yourself more, Jeff.
Hey, thank you. And thanks for having me today. I'm really excited about joining you and introducing field maps to you today. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if it's coming up. Okay. Can you all see it? I'll take that as a yes. I'm not seeing any people, but
yes.
Yeah. So just that bit of introduction on me. My name is Jeff Shaner, and I'm product lead within Esri. I've been at Esri this is my 26th year with the company. Surprisingly, I'm only 35. I don't know how that happened. I must have been a child prodigy or something. Totally kidding. But I used to work on our desktop products, and then about 9 or 10 years ago, I jumped over to building mobile solutions within Esri. So that's kind of my background and history, based here out of Redlands, California, originally from up in a really small town called Swift Current in the province of Saskatchewan in Canada. So what I thought I'd do to kick things off is kind of talk about our team and what we've been building for the last little while to set the context for field maps. So what we've been doing is that we've been building technology that really looks at all the different activities that our customers use when they take content out to the field. They look at, how do they plan and coordinate the work activities that need to happen? How do they efficiently get to the location of that work that needs to be accomplished? How do they use maps for that spatial understanding and perhaps markup with graphics on top of the map? How they can perform a data collection, either using the map or using GPS in the field. How can they maintain kind of recurring, I'll say, inspections or observations as well? That's all a part of the capture phase, which we'll focus a lot on today. And then something relatively new is, which is kind of fundamental to GIS, if you want to think about it that way, is your location. Being able to record your locations so you can use that information for historical analysis, or also share it for real-time kind of situational awareness. So our team, we've been building these very focused apps to support those different activities. And the really exciting thing about ArcGIS Field Maps is that we're taking all of these individual apps and we're merging them into one. And we've started on that process today. And we're going to just continue building upon it over the next couple of years. And that's what we're going to talk about for the rest of the time here. So in addition to the ArcGIS Field Maps, which becomes this one app that you can use for all of these activities, think about it as we have additional specialized apps like Survey 123, which a lot of you use today, to do form-centric data capture. We've got an app called Quick Capture that's really designed for that specialized activity of on the move or big button data capture. We've got one called Mission Responder that's all about work together collaboratively and communicating geographically within a mobile application. The ArcGIS Indoors app, which brings a lot of new capabilities for working indoor with your mobile device, and ArcGIS Earth as well, that gives you that 3D perspective. But at the core is ArcGIS Field Maps. And you know, one of the things I think that's really important to highlight here is the name, actually. So a key fundamental, I guess, guiding principle for our team, going back to this slide with all of these activities, is what? It's the map. The map is critical to accomplishing all of these different activities and bring them together to complete a variety of different workflows. And that's what's really important about our naming and essentially what we're doing. So by authoring a map and using the ArcGIS platform and the principles behind it, these maps just come to life on your mobile device. And you can use them for all these different activities, whether it's just to discover information, whether it's to capture new information, whether it's to validate things that are out there. And you can see a little bit later that there's so much more that we're going to be bringing to. Okay, so what's there today? What have we actually released? Well, in December, we released the ArcGIS Field Maps product, and it combined the capabilities of ArcGIS Explorer, ArcGIS Collector, and ArcGIS Tracker into one app. And what that provides for you is one app that you can deploy for map viewing. So you can use the maps that you author inside of ArcGIS Online or the maps that you might package with ArcGIS Pro and just view them on the screen in your mobile device. Use your location for that reference and you can mark up on top of them and share that markup with others. You can also use data collection capabilities in the app. And we've done a lot with data collection over the last couple of years in that, you know, you can just use the map to tap and set the location for something that you want to capture, but you can go as far as connecting to an external GNSS receiver, define datum transformations, and capture information that can be accurate down to a centimeter. So you can build upon those kind of core surveying concepts with the data collection workflows that you employ as well. And finally, and I'd say not least, is the location tracking capability. There's some really exciting things we've done there. On the mobile device, we're actually leveraging not just location for defining what we track, but also the motion and fitness APIs on the device, so that we can manage battery efficiently, but also capture the type of activity you're engaged in and store that with the tracks that we collect as well. So you can do some interesting analysis on the track data, looking at the type of motion someone's engaged in doing. The mobile app itself, I've kind of talked a little bit about this already. Built upon the latest developer technology we have at Esri, it lets you view rich cartographic maps, maps that can even update in real time. So if you're making web maps today, you probably are aware of something called a refresh interval that can be set on a layer. The Field Maps app will honor that. So if there's other things that are in motion, you're going to see them change on the map as you're using it. There's the ability to search in the map, search with location and different coordinate notations even. And that's really a powerful feature that you may or may not be aware of. We can geocode to search for addresses. You can search for attributes off of features. We added support for indoor maps. So if you've followed the indoor information model that was introduced with ArcGIS Indoors, that talks about this hierarchy of sites and facilities and levels. If you build map layers that support that, we'll present a floor picker and show you how you can filter data based upon that indoor model that you've put together. And that's just the start of some pretty exciting things we're doing there. On the map markup side of things, this really comes to the app from Explorer. So if you were a collector user, this is all going to be new to you. You can drop markers, turn them into arrows to point at things. You can freehand sketch with your finger or with an Apple Pencil, perhaps, on the map. And all that markup is stored locally on your device. And you could share it by airdrop or by email or text message, or you could share it back to your ArcGIS organization and use it in Pro. The high accuracy data collection capabilities that are there for ArcGIS Collector are all inside of Field Maps too. And we've introduced this new smart form capability. I'm going to focus a little bit on that when I do the demonstration. The other thing I wanted to mention is that with this product, we've introduced a new web app. This web app is designed really for the GIS analyst that wants to configure maps that they own and do that in a way that all the information they need to deploy maps to a mobile device is at their fingertips. So if that's managing the offline experience, all of that is centralized in the app. You don't have to hunt around ArcGIS Online to find it. It's the location where you can create content. You can build these dynamic forms that I'm going to show you in a minute. But it requires that you essentially have maps as its starting point. In the future, we're looking at providing an experience where you can create a new map dynamically right in this application. So if you don't have the opportunity to use ArcGIS Online and create new maps using the tools in there or ArcGIS Pro, then you could start here and just rapidly get to building a map for, say, data collection purposes. So that's the end of my boring slide content. What I wanted to do was jump into a demo, and I thought it fitting to look at actually a learn lesson that was put together by Charlotte Smith from UC Berkeley, and it was about evaluating equitable drinking fountain distribution. And you may or may not have had the opportunity to look at this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go first to, let me just come out of full screen mode for a second, to the exercise, and let's take a look at it. It's a pretty long exercise. It's broken into two parts. The first part is about really putting together the information required to collect data around water fountains, ultimately. Then using ArcGIS Collector to collect that information, and then looking at some information about social vulnerability to do analysis on the distribution of those fountains. So all I'm going to zero in on is the specific aspect of the collection. But this exercise, this lesson's there, and I encourage you to take a look at it if this is your first time really looking at field maps or collector or the product as a whole. One of the things that's quite interesting about it is that Charlotte walks you through how to create a new layer. So if you weren't aware of this, you could start with absolutely nothing inside of ArcGIS Online, create new layers, define the fields on those layers, add some intelligence to the fields like lists and whatnot, and quickly make a map. And this section of her Learn lesson goes through how to do that. And ultimately, she creates two fields, one that defines whether the water fountain is functioning and what condition it's in. Is it clean? Is it dirty? And she walks through the details of how to do that. It's really simple. So I encourage you to look at it if you haven't. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show this to you on my iPhone. So here is my iPhone. I've signed into ArcGIS Field Maps using my account. And you can see a list of maps. These are maps that either I'm currently working with, that's the current section here, maps that I've downloaded to my device, maps that I've authored, or maps that have been shared with me in groups using ArcGIS Online sharing capabilities. So I'm going to tap on the Berkeley Fountains map. And this is exactly the same workflow inside of ArcGIS Collector. In fact, I also have ArcGIS Collector up here, and I can show you the same map as we go along. I'm simulating my location. I'm obviously I'm in Redlands area. I'm not in Berkeley. It'd be much nicer to be at this park, but that's where we are today. So inside of Collector or inside of Field Maps, I can tap the plus button. I can drop the location. It uses my current GPS location for the new fountain that I'm creating. And then it has a very simple form that I can fill out. And 2 of the pieces of information are required. So is the fountain functioning? I can say no. What's its condition? It's dirty. I could take a photo directly. I could attach a video if I'd like, record some audio, browse for some file that's on my device if I want, and tap submit. So using field maps to collect information is really that simple. Now, what if you want to do a little bit more? What if there's more capabilities that have been enhanced over what you might do with Collector? Let's take a look at that. And I've got a different map to do that with. I've got this other Berkeley Fountains map, and I'm going to open it up. You can see it's pointing to the same layer. We've collected a feature there already. Now, what I'm going to show you is that very similar workflow. I'm going to tap the plus button to collect something new. I've augmented the types of features that can be collected just to qualify them a bit more. I've changed the color using different symbology, very basic things. I've said that, this location, this fountain is not functioning. But now when we open up, things are very familiar, but there's more capabilities. So you can see there's actually a group of information that appears now. And I can collapse and expand that group. So if you start to think about making much larger forms, you can organize those attributes that need to be filled out using the concept of a group. And I can provide a descriptive information to it. Does the fountain work? Yes or no? I chose no, and there's 2 fields that appear. One that says, why is it not working? In addition to what condition is it in? If I change that from no to yes, that other field disappears. So we can provide this additional logic inside of the forms now, inside of the app. I can set that other attribute. Let's just say no. And we can say, when I tap on it, it says, provide details on why it's not working. So I can provide some what we call hint text that helps me fill out that form. So I want to know why this fountain isn't working, and I can say that the tap is broken. And I can add that context to it. So we've got a lot of advancements that have been happening inside of the form itself here. Very simple way to kind of move forward. Let me show you how I actually put that together. But before I do that, I want to highlight something else that's very powerful that we've introduced, and it's right here in this custom pop-up. So I dropped that fountain location, and in this custom pop-up that I created, I kind of pulled from that feature and said, is the fountain functioning? No. What condition is it in? It's dirty. But look what's next. I actually pulled directly out, as I collected this feature, the overall vulnerability index value, and I'm displaying it. You might be wondering, well, how could I do that? The really cool thing about this is that, and if you haven't spent time looking at it yet, um, we've now introduced a new expression language in ArcGIS called the Arcade Expression Language. And that expression language you can use for symbolizing data, you can use it for labeling features, but you can also use it in your pop-ups. And what I've done here is I've said, take the location of the fountain, go find the actual polygon that sits for the tracks layer for the overall SVI index, find it, and then derive the information of the score and present it as part of that feature. So this lends itself to mapping on the phone, doing basic analysis. I did a point in polygon, discovered the information on the related polygon feature, pull it into what I'm capturing. Makes the application very, very powerful. So I wanted to highlight that for you. So how does this all come to work? So inside of your ArcGIS organization, from the app launcher, you can open up the Field Maps web application. And when it does that, I'll put it into full screen mode. And it's going to sign in. Hopefully, yeah, here we go. And show me my list of maps. These are the maps that I own. So again, this is for the GIS analyst that wants to make maps and configure them. Now in the Berkeley Fountains map, when I click on that and I open it up, I can access my content. And there's my Berkeley Fountains layer. And these are the two templates that appeared when I captured the new location of a fountain. And if I click on one of those, there's lots of great things I can configure here. I've just set the default value for the field that's functioning to no, but we could also set other default values for when new things are captured here too. But what's, I think, really exciting is the form. And the form aspect is here in the Forms tab. And it's somewhat similar to what you do with Survey 123 in that I can start to define the form itself. I can take the field being functioning, give it a display name that asks a question, give it some hint text if I want. I can make it required. I can add additional intelligence to it. This field of why things are not working was based upon us saying no to whether the fountain works, yes or no. And to do that, we bring forward the Arcade Expression Language. So if I click on that, it opens up the expression builder. And this is what my expression looked like. Using the functioning attribute and its domain name of yes or no. And we can look at that if we want. Then just define whether it's yes or no, returns back a true or false. And if it's true, then show this value. The other features in the web app really are centered around the offline capabilities, knowing if the content in your map can be used offline or not, and gives you a method for diagnosing why, for generating what we call map areas. So you can essentially put together the different pieces of the map so that the person using the mobile app just taps on one to download it. It's already configured for them. And there's some advanced features as well. So this is just a quick look at ArcGIS Field Maps, both from the perspective of the web application and the mobile app. Within our Learn team at Esri, we're going to be, I'll just say, upgrading Charlotte's exercise, her Learn lesson to incorporate some of the new capabilities inside of Field Maps. So look for that Learn lesson to come pretty soon. And then if you want more information, there's quite a few resources that are out there. Obviously, our main product page where we talk about the key uses of the product. The resources page really get at our documentation and the details of how things work. We've got a great writing team that's working on a number of key blog articles that also tie to guides. So if you're migrating from an existing app like Collector, and you want to see a detailed comparison of Collector to field maps, that migration guide is a downloadable PDF that you can grab. If you want to know all the ins and outs of the offline capabilities, you can look there. And then we've been having a lot of fun with YouTube. We've been putting together a playlist and highlighting individual features. And we're going to expand upon that quite considerably in the next little while. So I think that's really all I have for content. I'm going to pass it back to you again, Sarah and Serena. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. We have a lot of
Yeah.
questions for you here, but it's, by the way, it's great presentations. So if I see that, it seems like there's a lot more capabilities in the field maps that's seamless together and working together. There's the first question in here is, does the user still can still use the classic ArcGIS collector, or what is the best practice?
Yeah. So with our transition, what we're doing from a development perspective is all new development that we engage in is happening inside of field maps. But collector is still supported. It's going to be supported through the end of 2021. And then we're hoping that all these new features that we've been introducing will help you migrate to field maps. And a big part of it, just to kind of maybe ease some concerns, is that the code base we started with for field maps was collector's code base. So
So it's not
everything
even
there is
migrating,
familiar.
right? It
Yeah,
should be
I mean,
everything that you work in ArcGIS collector should work in the field map.
exactly, and then more. And the one thing to maybe look at there is especially for you as a GIS professional or a GIS analyst that makes a bunch of maps, because we've merged Explorer and Collector together, your list of maps that appears when you sign in could be longer. It could have maps that are read-only as well as maps that you can collect into. And in that web app, we've got a way for you to filter out maps that you don't want to see there. There's a show in field maps or hide in field maps. I didn't show you that in the app, but there's that capability. That's really the only thing that ultimately is different in the experience.
And the form as well, it's actually smart form, similar with the survey 123 that you have in collector in the field map.
Yeah, the exciting thing there, and I should have showed this, I can break it back out and show it to you, is that, what's really important for us in our team and what we do is that everything is centered around the map. So the smart form work that we're doing isn't unique to field maps. If you use the new map viewer beta, those smart forms work there too. Because we've been working with our JavaScript development team, with the ArcGIS online development team, and the form itself is, I'll just say, a new piece of JSON that gets written into the web map. And so this March, the map viewer that's in beta will be released. And if you use it to edit features, that same smart form appears there as it appears in the Field Maps app. And then moving forward, we're going to teach Pro how to work with that smart form definition as well. So it's one that's kind of expanding as a new form of, no pun intended there, working with and editing attribute data inside the platform. And so you can think of it as a new ArcGIS smart forms definition, where what we did with surveys is incredible. It's based upon an open standard called XLS forms, and that team will continue to iterate on the XLS form spec. Now we just have an ArcGIS spec as well.
I see. There's a question in here, Jeff. Could you change the setting to that when you open the new map in field map, it zoomed to the map data instead of automatically centering on your location?
That's been a really interesting question for us as a team, because you set a default extent for the map, and if the map supports data collection inside of field maps, and we zoom to your location with the thought that that's where you're going to capture data, or you're going to be there, that's when you're using it. But if you don't support data collection in the map, then let's just default to the extent of the map. And it's kind of an ongoing debate within our team. Actually, we have lots of heated debates, by the way, but uh, it's great feedback. It'd be good to understand if that's from the perspective of wanting to teach with it and not being at the location, or if it's something else. If it's from the perspective of teaching, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, and I'll try to be pretty quick on this. I'm going to show you some hidden developer functionality inside of the app. So let me go here. And this is currently specific to the iOS app. We'll be adding it to Android soon. But if I go into my profile, you can see also that, you know, as I'm tapping, there's that pulse that's showing, right? So what I'm going to do here, and it's going to sound a bit crazy, over top of the name, I'm going to tap 3 times really quickly. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do it again. 1, 2, 3. When I tap 3 times, you might have noticed down at the bottom of the screen, there's a developer menu that actually appeared. With the developer menu, I can simulate location, and I pasted in a coordinate right there. So I can set that coordinate, and I could do it quite easily. I can basically just go in a map. Let's go over here. We'll drop a pin. We'll copy the coordinates. We'll go back over. We'll tap developer. We'll tap here, and we'll paste. And man, look at all the other attributes. I could say that we're accurate to 0.5 of a meter. And when I come back into the map, my location just moved, and I'm there. So this is a nice tool for teaching. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you try to go outside afterwards, because you're going to go, wait, I'm not there. You know, and it's not going to track. So you're going to want to shut that off. But know that that's available for you if you want to use it for teaching. And what I've done to show this is to turn on show touches. So there's a little insider tip.
Wow, this is a treat that you give us to the background, you know, yeah, for the setting for the developer here. So any of you that you're probably teaching with the data outside the country, then now you can do that, right? We do it a lot for the demo as well.
The way on Android right now is quite convoluted. You pretty much need to use what's called mock locations and simulate a location that way. Or if you want to simulate Android altogether, you can use Android Studio, and then you can set a location within a property in Android Studio if you want to go that route.
Awesome. Jeff, we have another question here. I think this is from Stace. How well does Field Maps handle or edit related table record?
Yeah, actually, really well. Let me open up, since I'm still sharing my screen, I'm going to open up a completely different map and show you real quick. Here I've got, let's see, is this the one that I wanted to show? Things are looking kind of weird. Someone was in here editing this data. I've got a hydrant, and this hydrant has a related table for inspections. And you can see hydrant inspections is listed there. If I tap hydrant inspections, then I can add a new related record. And that form that I talked about, that new smart form, works on related tables too. So in this case, I've got multiple groups, and I've got this conditional logic. I'll say yes here. It's got required field. I don't know what flow rate is on a flush of a hydrant, but I'll just put a value in there and hit submit. So we can definitely support related tables, and then you know, using some of that arcade logic, you could go down through the related tables and pull out kind of interesting information that way. And related tables inside of field maps, you know, I think it's really it's underrated, because the other thing that you can support, so you can support like in this case, it was a one-to-many relationship between a feature and a non-spatial table, but you can do feature-to-feature relationships too. So I was just working with a fire department that was looking at addresses, and they wanted to actually tap on an address and then be able to create at that address a location of a smoke alarm or an entry point or other features that were related back to the address so that they didn't have to enter any address information. So you can, using ArcGIS Pro, define these feature to feature relationships, and they'll all just work inside of field maps as well.
Yeah. Jeff, a follow up a bit here. Does it support laser rangefinder offsets?
We do not have direct laser rangefinder offset capability today. We have been working with some partners on that though. So I'm going to open up a tab, and I'm going to go to one of these partner websites, EOS Positioning. So EOS Positioning sells GPS receivers, high accuracy GPS receivers. They're based out of Montreal, Canada. And they have a laser mapping solution and a locate solution. The locate actually integrates with field maps to do underground line location, like finding the depth of a water line that's under the ground. And from the laser mapping perspective, if I can click on that and get it to come up, they've introduced some, I would say pretty advanced survey methods by using field maps connected to their application on the device. Things like a range intersect method. And there's some great videos here. Joseph, by the way, this is next level for you doing mobile demos. This person here, Tyler, actually shares his screen, has a video camera behind him, and is recording his collection with offsets and talking at the same time as showing a screen. Next level stuff. Range backsighting and a lot of other methods that are there that are more kind of traditional survey methods, but available through field maps and collector, by the way. So we haven't introduced laser offsets ourselves yet. We've kind of been working with partners to do that, and this is a good example of one that we worked with to do it.
Awesome. Hey, Joseph, do you have burning
yeah,
question there?
these are great, Jeff. They're just pouring in because people are loving this and really wanting to dig into this. Many in our community, in our education community, globally, use Survey 123 in part because of the crowdsourcing capability, where a person doesn't have to be signed in or anything like that. What is the thinking with field maps and crowdsourcing?
That's a good question. From a crowdsourcing perspective, we don't have so much of a direction there. I'd say that, where we've, because what's critical for data collection within field maps is the identity. So we need to get an identity of some sort. So where we have seen the crowdsourcing aspect come in is with organizations that use ArcGIS Hub Premium. And then, inside of Hub Premium, you can get a bulk of users that can be assigned to do data collection exercises. So it's not crowdsourcing. There's no ability to collect information inside the app without some form of identity. It could be a social identity, like we've added support for sign in with Apple or with, I think it's whatever the social ones that we support are.
Okay.
But you need to establish some kind of identity to use it.
Got it. So the people that want to truly make a crowdsource kind of a field survey, Survey 123 is the way to go on that. Yeah, understood.
I think it's the only solution we have today for it. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Here's another one, Rena. Sorry, I know you have stacked as well, but one of our colleagues, I've wondered this myself, is wondering, how do you get this list of maps in your mobile device? How do you easily remove those so they don't show up in the field maps interface? If that makes sense. You got a bunch of content and you don't want it all to show.
Totally does. Let me go back to where I had the web page. I am going to go back to this overview page here in the web app. There's two ways to do it. One is you can use this web app to do it. The other is it's just a property on a web app inside of ArcGIS Online. So if I didn't want to show these other maps, I can click on them and say hide in Field Maps Mobile. You see I did that. Now, if I come back over to the mobile app, and I refresh my screen, those maps are gone.
Sweet.
They don't show up in the map. Yeah, and so likewise, if I wanted to just do that from the item details, I can go over to my content. And we do have I mean, if you want to automate that, there's a Python script for it too, if you want to get all fancy. But if I go, and this is another reason why we built this web app, I need to go to the actual web map item. I need to go over to the settings, and then right down at the bottom, I can remove use for collector. I can remove use for Field Maps mobile app. So right there.
Thank you.
So two ways to do it. Yep.
Hey, Jeff, question here. Any plan to release field maps for Windows tablets, such as the Surface Pro?
Yeah, we've been looking at it. You know, we've been dabbling in the Windows platform a lot. I mean, we built Explorer most recently for Windows, but we haven't engaged in building field maps on the Windows platform. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One has been a kind of a lack of adoption of Windows as a whole for mobile use. When you look at what we actually developed, we built an app that's focused on a touch-centric user experience for phone and tablet form factors. And a while ago, Microsoft introduced that concept, but in the last couple of years, they've kind of moved away from building developer toolkits that provide that experience. There was a recent announcement, and we don't know for sure if it's rumor or if it's fact, but we're expecting to hear potentially more at Microsoft's Build conference about being able to run Android apps on the Windows 10 platform. And if that's the case, well, field maps will just work potentially, right? So we want to investigate more opportunities like that before we move forward on Windows. Interestingly enough, if you follow, like obviously here I'm on a Mac, if you follow some of Apple's development, the new silicone chip-based Macs run iOS apps, and I've been testing this one that I'm sharing with isn't a silicone Mac, but I've been testing on one, and Field Maps works really well. The only thing we haven't figured out yet is how to work with external GPS receivers, but everything else just runs like a champ on it.
I see. Okay. Another question in here is, does the form in the ArcGIS Field Maps work only for hosted feature services? What if you want to work with the data that is coming from a database?
Yes, it works with both hosted services as well as ArcGIS server feature services. And that's what I was saying with the form itself being stored not as a part of the layer or its definition, but as a part of the web map. And if you really want to dive into it, well, I'm sure we can share some links after too, but this is the spec. And this is the web map spec, and this is the current form info spec. So if you want to go dive into the JSON, you can see it there. This JSON can be applied to any feature layer, whether it come from your enterprise geodatabase originally and served up as a feature service, or if it's a hosted feature layer. So both work, and tables too.
Joseph, go ahead. I think you have some question, right?
I do. I think I've got one that I think many people will care about. And these are great questions, folks, by the way. Okay, let's say we want to add a record or a field in the table. Rather than adding a new geometry, can we, first of all, if I understand the question correctly, can we add a field inside the Field Maps app? Like, let's say you're out in the field, oh, oops, I forgot conductivity or something like that. And maybe Andy can rephrase or clarify
I think I understand that one, Joseph. It's really about on the fly, and this was supported a long time ago with ArcPad. ArcPad didn't really have a strong web. I mean, it was built before we really had WebGIS, right? It was a standalone thing. You could create a new project in ArcPad. It would define, and there was one thing called a quick project where you could just instantly have a set of fields and capture data into those fields because you might have forgot, to set up something up front before you went out to the field. We've not done anything like that since. What we generally recommend is that you just go in, maybe use ArcGIS Online here and go to your content view. And this is where Charlotte's lesson starts. Click create feature layer. And then we have a build a layer concept. You can create empty point, line, or polygon feature layers. You can start adding fields to them, but keep them as like this generic layer that's added into your maps that can be used to capture other things. That's really the only thing we can do today for it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jeff, there's another question related again to the relationship table, relay table here. Will the field map support many-to-many relationship with the related tables?
We don't today. It's something that we have looked at. We drive the definition of the relationship work based upon what's supported in the feature service. And today that's not supported in a way that we can use it. So if there's some good use cases on that, we'd love to get them because there's a lot of future development around relationship classes we want to do. So if we could get some examples of many-to-many relationships that you can explain from the benefit of a mobile user, love to get that.
Yes. Okay. So there's another question in here is, will field map support geo ID models of true orthometric elevation using high accuracy external receivers such as Trimble R1 and R2?
That's a great question. So one of the things that we've done with field maps, and we've kind of done this with all the other vendors too, is that there's always, if it's a Trimble R series receivers or whatnot, there's always a companion app that comes from the vendor. Like the EOS company I showed you, they have an EOS Tools Pro app that's what does the laser offsetting. With Trimble, they've got this app called Trimble Mobile Manager. And what's unique to field maps, which is really cool, is that we, with Trimble receivers, we actually embed a software development kit from Trimble as part of it. And it's called the TP SDK. And that is used by the Trimble Mobile Manager. So through the combination of the two within field maps, not only do we have support for true orthometric heights, but also support for time-dependent transformations. And that's kind of unique to working with Trimble-based receivers. In the case of working with EOS or Leica, they also provide us with an orthometric height, and we store that into the Z value of the geometry. We also capture as an attribute the height above ellipsoid, so you have both, and you could compare or do your own math on it. So all of it's there. What we don't have yet is a way for you to define and store just natively inside of field maps at a more accurate geoid and define that vertical datum transformation. And that's in our roadmap to do. But right now we're just working with the vendors to support that feature. But look for it. It's kind of in our mid to long-term roadmap.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Wow, this is a lot of questions, exciting. All right, next one. How well does it sync if multiple people are collecting data offline?
Yeah, so well, there's a bunch of things to go with that. Like, oh gosh, I try to be brief. I get so excited about this if I want to spend a lot of time talking about it. An organization that is here in California that uses our offline capabilities quite extensively is CAL FIRE. And we've done a lot of work with CAL FIRE to kind of improve the overall synchronization framework that's inside of ArcGIS. Because, you know, in their workflows, where they're, say, doing damage assessments on a wildfire, they go back to their command center, which could have just a simple MiFi that they need to sync against. And we encountered some situations where, you know, you'd have 6 firefighters coming, connecting to a MiFi, each of them having like 20 pictures on their phone, along with on a sync at the same time. And it just has catastrophic failure, right? Because you're all at this choke point of a MiFi. You've got lots of packets of data you're trying to upload. You're all hammering it at the same time. So we've done a lot of optimizations for that on the mobile device. First is that, you know, we don't upload anything that's larger than 2 megabytes in packets in size. We'll chunk everything up so that we can essentially stream it up to a server. And whether that's, you know, our servers in ArcGIS Online, or whether that's your servers in your enterprise installation. And in that case, you need to think about how you manage and scale them. The other part is that we've added advanced capabilities for how you manage the download aspect. Going back to that CAL FIRE example, the sync by default is bidirectional, kind of like your email, right? So I compose a bunch of emails, I upload, and I download at the same time. Well, if I'm downloading a bunch of GIS features with attachments, and those are all big photos, it's going to take a long time, and it's going to put a lot of stress on that network for it being a high bandwidth network. So you can make all kind of optimizations on how the sync should occur, and that really alters the experience. So I could say, only download GIS features, never download any photo attachments, never download features, only just upload data as I've captured it. And all of these different settings has a dramatic impact on the overall synchronization capabilities. So we try to talk through a lot of that on the offline migration guide. And I encourage you to look at that to better understand how the synchronization framework works and how you can optimize it. Hopefully that was an answer to the question. I kind of went off there.
Jeff, I'm just looking at the chat here again, and there are some appreciative comments about, hey, I've been using Collector for a long time. We all know that these educators want to get their students out in the field and collecting data and so on, and others that are not educators that happen to be on here as well. But that's very much appreciated. And I think you touched on that when you talked about using the code base, that you didn't want to make people, hey, you've got this system in place, or you've got a course that you're teaching, you're working for a municipal government, you don't have to reinvent everything that you've done. So, and again, yeah, lots of positive comments about that.
Awesome.
Jeff, how about development extensibility options available in the work with ArcGIS with this field map?
Yeah, you know, the approach that we've taken is one that's more centered on configuration than it is extending the capabilities. So we don't provide the code base through kind of open source at all. And there's been no intention or no intent to do that with our team. Instead, there's a couple of different ways that you can integrate with it. We have a concept of app linking that both our partners and developers and others have kind of taken flight with. It's basically being able to remotely control the application using a URL. Extremely powerful. It's how that EOS company integrates the laser range finding. You could say, I have to launch the Field Maps application. I want to pass it a bunch of data, and I want to tell it to start capturing a new feature and use that data that I pass. Or open a specific map, or, you know, there's like a myriad of different features that can be leveraged that way. We're also, with the web app, going to introduce the concept of map settings. And map settings will let you control what's available in the user experience. So if I don't want someone to be able to use the compass to navigate to the location of a feature, or if I don't want them to be able to copy an existing feature, you could turn that off at the map level, and it'll configure the user experience on the device. So our intent with the product is more to focus on you configuring rather than going through the process of customizing, because the bar goes from really low to extremely high once you get the source code in Swift or Kotlin and want to build for a specific deployment. You need a developer agreement. You need to understand our code base. You need to be very fluent in that language. And most of the customers that use our products, they don't want that. So we haven't gone that road.
Awesome. Hey, Jeff, there's a quick question in here. Can you import Survey 123 XLS forms into field maps, or do you need to recreate them?
You would need to recreate them. Again, the two products are going to live side by side. So don't think that Survey 123 is going anywhere. It's going to continue to expand and grow. If you want to build forms that maybe you've built in Survey and use them in field maps, you'll need to build them over again, though. It's a completely different format. And it's founded upon you kind of starting with an existing schema. In March, we'll be releasing a Python API for creating forms too. So you could look at how could I automate that using Python, like diving into a survey form and then creating it programmatically. So that will be possible. But from a designer experience, you'd have to start over.
Awesome. Okay, so there's a lot more questions and comments, Jeff, that we do not have time to cover here, but I think we're gonna plan to write an FAQ maybe, so they can always go back and then check that FAQ.
Awesome.
Joseph, is there anything that I missed? I know I miss a lot. So what do you think?
Well, given the wonderful comments and feedback in the chat box, someone's asking about, can we save that? Are there any issues with doing that? Rena, do you know?
Yes, to save the chat. There's so many people with the information here. I don't know. I need to get probably approval for it.
Yeah, maybe we could strip out the names and just put the links in there or something like that.
Right. Hey, FAQ probably.
Another thought for you guys too. Yeah, I think that's where you're going is I'm happy to take any questions that didn't get answered or even summarizing the ones that we did verbally answer into an article. One you could post on to the GeoNet community or whatever it might be, because I'd love to see field maps be a strong teaching tool. So the more I can support you in any way, I'd love to do it.
Yes. Let's do that, Jeff. I think that document can be just like frequently asked questions, and we give you the list from the chat.
Awesome.
So it will look nice anyway. So 1 minute to go. We would like to thank you everyone for coming. We would like to thank Jeff for sure for answering all the questions. And then don't forget the next March one, we're gonna bring ArcGIS Urban. So that will be a nice one. And if I can open the my screen here, I'm gonna just want to show the site for the I don't know, I couldn't find the site for the chat here. Okay, here you go. The registration is open, is Exploring Urban Environment with ArcGIS Urban. So feel free to join. Okay, thank you everyone. Jeff and Joseph, do you have the last minute?
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Rena. Thanks, everyone. Awesome.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.